welcome to Live Coding Happy Hour. At least that's what the background said. I thought we were doing Creator Toolbox this morning. What are you up to, Brad?
Was that the video? Oh,
And the background.
that was the only video clip. So
I see beer mugs. Okay, we're going to call this Creator Happy Hour. I don't know what we're doing here. I was all ready with an intro, and then I'm looking at the video going, okay.
It never even dawned on me.
That's all right. Earl normally puts these things together, but he is out with a personal issue, a family matter. We wish him all the best and hope that he's back soon so we can get this squared away. But until then, let's do some quick introductions. Go ahead, Brad.
Hey, everybody. My name is Brad Tilton. I am a developer advocate with a developer program here at ServiceNow. I've been developing on the platform for a long time, and I'm excited about our topic today on Creator Toolbox.
Yes. Julia, give yourself an introduction.
All right. Thanks, Chuck. Morning, everyone. My name is Julia Perlis. I'm a senior product manager on the workflow and integrations team here at ServiceNow. So I get to spend my time thinking about all of the different tools we offer to build apps and build automation and on the platform. I've been at ServiceNow a little over a year now, getting my hands dirty with all of our features and products, and have been spending a ton of time working on the application that we'll be looking at today, which is called Decision Builder and focuses on decision management.
I always need help with my decisions. Should I buy these earbuds or these headphones?
I was going to say, do I need to put like a caveat in here? Like, cannot provide input on any content. Framework oriented. Started watching the new Star Trek series Prodigy, and one of the characters says, "Our life is a series of bad decisions." That's what came to mind. Anyway, another reference for another time. My name is Chuck Tomasi, Senior Developer Advocate at ServiceNow. Been here since 2010. Was a customer for a couple of years before that. And have a long history of software development in the IT industry going back to the early 80s. Wow, I think I finally smoothed that whole thing out. I don't think it's ever come out. Kudos to the herbal tea and the ServiceNow mug, I guess. Julie's got her mug as well. Brad?
No mug. I'm past coffee already.
Alrighty. Julia, you've got the stage. I'm turning it over to you.
All right, great. Let's see.
What are we building? You mentioned Decision Builder.
Whoa.
Screen share. Let me know if that screen share's up.
We have a slide deck.
I do. Only a couple slides. I know. I'm allergic to slides, but sometimes I find that it helps me stay on track. So we're going to do a bit of context.
Abstract concepts are best done with pictures. Right. And developers have lots of abstract concepts. Yep.
This is a lot of text, which is not the right way to do things, but we're just going to roll with it. And then we'll spend most of our time focusing on an actual demo of what this product is. So what we're going to talk about today is Decision Builder, which is an app that enables decisions in ServiceNow. And, as we mentioned, decisions can mean a lot of things. It can mean whether you should have coffee or tea for breakfast. But in the context of ServiceNow and in the context of, application development, decisions are a way to capture business logic. So if you think about, if and else statements, anything that is evaluating a set of conditions to make a decision is considered a decision or a decision rule. And decisions on the platform are callable artifacts that you can use in applications. So the concept behind decisions is that you have your apps, you have your code, and rather than hard coding your logic in there, you manage your logic in decisions, and then you leverage those decisions in your applications and in your code.
I want to say that again. Data-driven design is the way to reduce maintenance.
There we go.
Thank you. Key way to reducing maintenance. So if you're wondering what's in it for me, less maintenance down the road because you can delegate the management of those decisions. We showed this recently with a different way of doing decisions or managing data, but you could say, hey, you know what? Product owner or platform owner or departmental head, you have access to this table. If you want to change the number of points it takes to get to gold status or whatever it is, you go change that. And I don't have to go muck with a flow or a workflow or a business rule or something behind the scenes every time the business requirements change. And they do.
Exactly. And, the pace of change for business decisions is usually more rapid than the pace of change of a process. And so if you have to change your flow or you have to change your code to be able to change your logic, it creates all of these unnecessary release cycles and slows things down. And frankly, oftentimes when business logic changes, like let's say you're doing something based on tax rates where you're evaluating, customer criteria or user criteria to determine a tax rate or a discount bracket. If those things change, you want them to change right away. You don't want to have to wait 2 months to be able to implement that change.
And those decision changes, that the decision changes can happen in production too. You may have a higher risk environment where you need to do that in test first, but realistically, you could be doing a lot of this in production, and then you don't have to get the developers involved at all. Which, the audience for this show is going, yeah, please, no.
And that's something that we're focusing on looking ahead is, what are the best ways to put processes in place to make sure that you can safely delegate to business users the ability to look at a decision table, to, make changes to it, to submit changes for approval. Obviously, safe harbor. I'll talk about some ideas through this presentation that are not, available on the store and may not be, but just to give you a bit of a window into where we're looking with this. So I'll move ahead so we don't stay on these slides, but yeah, to Chuck's point, really the ability to separate decisions from code and make things much easier on a maintenance standpoint. Also, if you manage decisions outside of your code, the business logic becomes reusable. You can use one decision in 10 different places, and you only need to change it once if the logic changes. So it really can help reduce complexity.
I like that.
So let's take a walk down memory lane. Decision tables were first introduced in Madrid with a standard lists and forms interface, which looking at this, we have a decision table, there's decision inputs, there's decision records. I'm not shocked that this was not, a super quickly adopted feature. We are selling a decision table, and this is not necessarily a table. So I think you can all understand why we took a look at this and decided this is a very powerful feature, but we haven't given it the user experience love that it needs for it to be appealing and consumable by our developers of all levels. So that is what I've been working on. How do we take this really powerful tool and make it something that is intuitive and easy to use for all users? So Decision Builder is a new store app. It has a new and improved user interface that we'll take a look at today for building decision tables. And why do we do it? It's to revamp a powerful platform feature, make decision tables accessible to developers of all skill levels, and really provide you, our developers, and business users the tools to build sustainable and streamlined applications. So to be able to really make that maintenance burden lighter, make your flows more readable, make everything as clean as can be, to make it very appealing to be building on the platform and build powerful applications.
And Julia, I know I may be jumping ahead a little bit, but what's the delta of, say, building a flow that's got some if else in it, or maybe even a switch block versus a decision table in terms of...
I'll take that segue, because we're going to look exactly at that. That's what we're going to walk through, is start with a pretty painful flow and then build a decision table to streamline it.
Oh, good. This wasn't planned, anyone.
No, it wasn't planned. So let's get into it.
Let's get
into PowerPoint, which I'm allergic to, and just get ourselves into an instance.
All right.
So first off, just want to give you a quick look. Decision Builder is an application on the ServiceNow store. You can get it from within your instance by looking for the plugin, but if you're looking for it on the store, just search for Decision Builder and you will find this beautiful store listing.
Do you know if that's available to PDIs?
Yes, it is.
Ding.
It's available to PDIs. There's no licensing around it because we're just building an application around a core platform feature. So it should be really easy for you to get up and running. And once you install it, there's no configuration to get started.
Okay, you get one of these. Oh, I missed it. There.
I feel like I'm going to...
I get the feeling we're going to hear that a few more times.
I'll take it. All right, so jumping in to our demo and our example, let's take a look here at what I think is probably a pretty typical way that people build flows right now. And understandably, given how powerful Flow Designer is and how easy it is to do this, I think I've definitely fallen prey to the trap of just like coming up with an idea and building it, and then later being like, this actually turned out to be way more complicated than I thought it was going to be. And if I have to make a change, it's going to be painful. So we're looking at something like this. The idea of this flow is a service catalog request comes in, and all we want to do is update the requested item record to assign it to a specific fulfillment group. And we're going to do that based on a set of criteria. So in this case, we'll look at whether that request is billable. And if it is billable, then we'll check the category of the requested item. And if it's hardware, we'll check the cost. If it's less than 10K, assign it to fulfillment group 1. Otherwise, assign it to fulfillment group 2. If it was software, to group 2. So as you can see, it's kind of a 3-level nested set of if statements.
I would call this brute force.
A lot of brute force. And like, if you want to change these thresholds, you need to be the person who built this flow. You need to understand what's going on. You can imagine building this out even further. This is just looking at hardware and software, and it's pretty simple. But if you really wanted to expand this out and cover more use cases, it could become very painful very quickly.
And oftentimes, this is how people will whiteboard it when they're doing a planning session or a process review. They'll have it on the board like this. So how do we take this and turn it into a decision table?
What a decision table will let you do, and we'll see this, is take these criteria, take this logic, and actually put it into more of a grid where you can look at all of this quickly and easily. So let's go ahead and start building our decision table to do this, to make all of this much clearer. So to access Decision Builder, it's in the left nav, search for Decision Builder.
Uh-oh, we seem to have lost a screen share.
Oh,
Mine's
really?
not updating.
That's strange.
Brad, what are you seeing?
Yeah, I still see the flow.
I still see the flow as well.
Let me stop the screen share and start it again.
All right.
All right, share screen, yes.
All right, let's pop that in there. Now we see
Slides.
your PowerPoint.
Yes. One more try.
Live broadcasting, people. Wonderful thing.
Exactly.
And
All right, are you looking at
there we
Yes.
go. Yeah,
Yes, but I need you to do like a Command plus or something to make
just a little bit.
the font a little larger.
Yeah, how's that?
Perfect.
Okay,
Love it.
great. We're back in business. So we access Decision Builder. In the left nav, there's a Decision Builder module, and that will pop open a new browser tab for us. Are you still tracking with me? You see Decision Builder?
Yep.
Okay, great. So this is the homepage for the new and improved Decision Builder. As you can see, it lists all of our decision tables here. One thing that will be coming in 2022 is delegated development for decision tables. So, obviously as an admin right now, I can see everything, but it may be that you only want users to see certain application or decision tables for certain applications, and that feature will be available to you in the future. So from now, we're going to just go ahead and create a new decision table. And for anyone who's been using App Engine Studio, this should be a pretty familiar experience walking through a general wizard of creation. Let's call this decision table catalog assignment groups. I'm going to put it in this service catalog management application. And then we're going to move ahead and jump right into the Decision Builder interface. So this is your blank canvas to create a new decision table. And there's two major components, really three, if we break this down. The first thing we're looking at here is the input section. So this is a familiar pattern across the platform. And the way a decision table works is that you pass in an input, and whenever you use that decision table, whether it's in a flow, whether it's in a script, you define how you're going to map data into that input. So the input's kind of like a variable, and it's defining the type of data that you need to consume to be able to make a decision. So think of the inputs as the data that you're going to hand this table, and you're going to say, here's this data, make a decision give me back a result. And that's where this result section comes in. And then the meat of your decision table lives in these conditions, which we'll build. So that the conditions are the like, here's how you evaluate the data we handed you. The results are based on that. What are we getting back? So what we're going to do here, we're going to add an input. We were looking at the catalog item category. So let's call this item category. And in this case, service catalog item categories is a reference because we store that in a table. So the field type is reference. And before I jump into that, you can see the list of field types that we support for inputs to start. Decision Builder was first released in September, so we're still in its youthful days and continuing to build out more features, more support. I think before I even get into this, we're so glad to be sharing this with this developer community, and the floor is open for you all to play around with this, share your feedback, share your greatest desires for what you want to see on this product, and help us shape where we take this and what we prioritize, because there is so much more we want to do with Decision Builder. So really excited to get the input of folks who are actually going to be using this for use cases.
I'm taking notes now, and I'm waiting to see what your demo shows so I can cross things off.
I was going to say, I got to be careful what I wish for, but in this case, I really do want all your.
You want to build something the customers like and use.
So we have a question about the version. I'm assuming it would be what release is this available for?
This is 1.1.0.
And so it's available with Rome?
Oh, what release? Yeah, Quebec and Rome.
Quebec and Rome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Quebec and Rome. We figured, why make people wait to upgrade to Rome to be able to use this? So yeah, Q&R, if you use version 1.1.0, which came out in October. So let's jump back in. We're going to look at the item category. The type is going to be reference, and specify the category table here. And then, as you can see, once you choose your input, you can choose it as mandatory, which means when you're using this decision table, whoever is implementing it needs to pass something to this input, which in most cases that will be the case. And then from there, we can add condition columns to our table. So here, we're going to add a condition column. It defaults your label. This is item category. And what this means is, what attribute do we want to be evaluating in our decisions? So in this case, we created an input for the item category, and we actually want to evaluate what that category is. So in this case, the description is look at item category. And then because this input is a reference input, if you come down here, we'll see that we have this little data to evaluate feature, which you choose if the condition column should look at the reference record or a field on the record, which is a little bit confusing in name, but really what it means is, if you're building decisions, are you looking at the individual records in this table, or do you want to look at attributes of those records? So in this demo, we'll walk through both. To start, we're going to look at the actual reference record. And the default operator will make sense once we add some rows to this table. So I'm going to click done, and that will add a condition column down here for item category. I'm going to keep building this table, but before we do that, just to make sure everyone's grounded in how this is going to work, I'll show you what this looks like. So we have this is one decision row. So if you think back to our logic, this is one way, like one decision rule that we're going to evaluate and then look for a result. And the way decisions are structured is that you say, what's the operator? How are we evaluating the data? Are we saying it is this, it's empty, it's not this? So in this case, it's is. And the first category we wanted to look at was hardware. So just to let you know what those cells look like, and let's keep building the structure of this table before we go ahead. We're going to need a result column here. So if we go back to our flow, at the end of the day, what we want to be doing is defining an assignment group. So the result that we need from our decision table is a group record. So we can say sysuser group is what we want that result to be. And what that means is that when all of the conditions evaluate to true, you can choose a specific group to be returned as a result. Another thing that we're working on to release in 2022 will be the ability to have multiple result columns. So, you might want to return a group and some text that you might put in the work notes. So that is something you can look forward to. And along with that is the ability to return results that are not just references. So if you're looking at what we're doing now, as you can see, to configure this result, the only option you had was choose a table, and you'll return a record in that table. Something to look forward to is the ability to return text or return a date or return an integer or a choice value. So stay tuned.
That'd be nice, because like you said in the earlier example, what's the discount rate? Well, it might be 10,
Exactly.
15, might be 5.
Exactly. Like you might want to return a decimal and then use that somewhere else in your flow. And so we want to be able to provide, maximum usability and flexibility for folks building these decision tables. So if we think back to our flow and flow designer, the other things we were looking at, we wanted to know if the request was billable. So we're going to add an input here for the requested item.
And are the inputs, they're not just references as well?
They're not. Okay. So you could have it all be, text, it could be integer, it could be choice. And I'll actually show you one example of where there's a decision between whether you want to use a reference or you want to use, a more scalar input. Obviously, if you're using a reference, you're tying it specifically to your designated ServiceNow architecture. Mm-hmm. The benefit of that is that you can build conditions based on attributes of tables, so based on different fields. Mm-hmm. But it obviously means that when you're passing it data, you have to pass it a record from that table. Versus if you had an input that was a choice, maybe you find that value in different ways depending on like how you're using the decision table. So it could offer more flexibility. There's kind of benefits and detractors either way.
Any thoughts of like a document ID in there?
Not yet, but add it to your backlog and send that over.
Okay. I often find, especially in Flow Designer, when building actions, that references only are a bit restrictive, because I may want to send it any record from any table.
Yeah, let's talk more about it.
Okay.
So let's look at requested item. We'll add that reference in here, make it mandatory, and then we can add a new condition column. And in this case, what we wanted to look at is whether the requested item was billable. So we'll change our condition column label to whether it's billable. And then in this case, the data to evaluate is not the reference record, because that would be the specific requested item. We want to evaluate a field on that record. So we'll go in, you can see this full list of fields from the requested item record, and we can choose the billable field. And that automatically tells you, okay, billable is a true false field, just so you have that information, and we can add that condition column here. And as you can see, there's a kind of a way to make sure that you can always connect what your condition columns are relative to the different inputs. So here, item category is tied to the item category input. They have a color match. The billable condition column is tied to the requested item input, and it shows you that kind of pathway of how you get to this data. So where does this field live on that reference record? And then the other thing we can do when we have a reference input like this is you can add another condition column. So the other thing we wanted to evaluate was the cost of the item. So let's look at item cost. Again, we'll look at a field. In this case, it's not actually a field on requested item, it's a field on item. So we can go down to the item, we can dot walk across, and then we can look for that cost field. And then here, when you set your default operator, what this does is when you click open the cell, what is that default way that you evaluate the data? So in this case, let's make it less than, and I'll show you what that does. So here we are, we have built the structure for our decision table. And if this is a product that you become familiar with, you can do all of this in approximately 1 minute. So we're already, building something that can be really quickly updated and added to, and is hopefully pretty intuitive for users. Obviously, adding new decision rows, you can just click and add that. You have the ability to add rows between, to rearrange your rows. And let's start filling out this table. So if we look back at this flow, we want to know if the request is billable or not. We want to know what the category is. So let's start with all of the logic where the request is billable. In this case, it's billable. The item category is hardware. The item cost is less than 10,000. Yeah, I think it was 10,000 here. Yep. Pretty expensive items. And then in this case, if it's hardware, if it's billable and it's less than 10,000, then the assignment group we want to assign it to is fulfillment group 1. Gotten really creative with these assignment groups, but insert your own use case here. And so as you can see, that is a really quick way to build this logic out, and obviously really easy to read. You can just say, the way you read this is the item category is hardware and it's billable and the item cost is less than 10,000. If those things are true, the result is fulfillment group 1.
So these are all ANDed together. Is there any OR conditioning going on?
There's no OR conditioning going on. The way decision tables are structured is that between the columns is always an AND. Mm-hmm. And within the columns, one thing, on our planned roadmap, but TBD on when it releases, would be the option to have more advanced conditions where you can put ORs within a cell.
Okay.
So if we keep building this, we're still working on hardware. It is billable. It is greater than or equal to 10,000. That's fulfillment group 2.
Pretty quick.
It is. It is pretty quick. And, one of the things that we're constantly looking out for as we, I'm playing around with this all the time now, is how can we build even more usability improvements in this to make it even faster and easier to navigate. So you can look forward to ongoing incremental improvements on, there's going to be big features we release, but even the small things like how do we make sure that the cursor goes in the right place all the time to make it as intuitive as possible? What are the different features that developers need to be able to quickly build these? Do you need to be able to copy a row? Do you need to be able to copy and paste a cell? And that's all within the set of things that we're considering for the future.
Yeah, I was thinking copy row as I watch you go through here.
As somebody who has built hundreds of these tables now, I would love the ability to copy a row.
Yeah. Get out the lifetime from Flow Designer.
Yeah.
The other thing I will say is, as many improvements as we can make, it's a purpose-built tool, but there's going to be, potentially users want to build tables with 1,000 rows. And the reality is it may be that the more intuitive tool to actually build that is Excel. So one of the things that we are looking ahead to is the ability to have this decision table interface, be able to build these columns that are connected into your ServiceNow architecture, have it be a totally ServiceNow product, but fill out this content in Excel. Use the tool that was built to do this and just build that really seamless connection.
Yeah, give them a template to follow.
Exactly.
Like we do with imports. Say, here, fill in the cells, and we'll re-import it because we know we gave you the right.
Exactly. And then for people who are like me, who have spent a lot of time living in Excel and navigating it with shortcuts, you can do this in 30 seconds.
Yep.
So let's keep building this out.
Christopher asked an interesting question about data change impact analysis. He says, let's say I'm setting the category to hardware, but later somebody says hardware is now inactive. It's hard to know where that impacts, and this would definitely be one of the places. Any thoughts on that one, Julia?
It's a really good question. I think there's an opportunity for us to do kind of ongoing build-in integrity checks of decision tables. One of the things we've been balancing as we've been building this is like, how do you make this easy to use and fast and not overburdened by extra database calls, but also make sure that we're not introducing the opportunity for breakage. Specifically to that question though, the great thing about decision tables is that if something doesn't evaluate to true, it's not going to break anything. So for the integrity of the decision table, it's good to know that if you get rid of item category hardware, all 3 of these rows become useless. But if you're using your decision table in a flow, the only impact of that would be that these 3 rows never evaluate to true.
Yeah, and I would think that that would be something you may want to keep in place for legacy records, because just because hardware goes inactive today doesn't mean all of the active records that are being fulfilled are going to disappear or change.
Yeah.
And Mark is right on track with where I was thinking. Maybe that's an instant scan check that we could build.
That's a great point.
Yeah. We call Mark Mr. Instant Scan. So he's going to build a check.
He's definitely found his niche.
What a nickname.
That might have been the first time it was said, but that's what I'm calling from now on.
Okay, well, I thought this was like a repeat, creator toolbox thing. Mark's always bringing up the instant scan.
He is.
He is.
All
he was
right.
on an episode of doing instant scan.
So I'm just going to keep on trekking with these decisions. If we go back to our flow designer flow, what you can see is that if the request is billable and the category is software, we're not actually looking at the item cost. So we don't care. If the category is software, all that matters is, if it's software and it's billable, assign it to group 2. So going back to Decision Builder, we can just leave the item cost blank and it won't be evaluated at all. It'll be considered any. So for this decision, it will evaluate as item category software and billable is true, then what's the group?
I'm guessing, Julia, that these are being stored in the same table structure as before, right? Where the decision tables were on the old UI 16 stuff. So you could easily go and modify them there, perhaps, or if you were running an instant scan, that's the table structure you want to go against.
So they're all stored in the same architecture. We haven't made any of those changes. The only thing we did was add a table with the store app to manage these condition columns. But they're still stored in individual rows are stored as sys decision question, and the whole decision table is a sys decision record.
Easy to reverse engineer. Good.
Yeah, exactly. So here, software is true, fulfillment group 2. And then if software and billable is false, then we want it to be fulfillment group 5. And then we can actually take advantage of that ability to evaluate a cell as anything and put an extra row at the bottom of this cell. This is a little workaround until we build the ability to formally say, otherwise do this, and just say that if, we can evaluate this decision table sequentially, which we'll look at in Flow Designer, and say, look at this row. If it's true, return this. If it's not true, look at this row. If that's true, return this. So we can go down to the bottom of the table and say, if none of these rows have evaluated to true, then for our last row, we don't care what the category is. We don't care if it's billable. We don't care what the cost is. Just assign it to the service desk. And that's kind of a catch-all decision that we can put if we're going to evaluate this decision table sequentially.
I love that. Every set of decisions needs a default.
Yes, I totally agree. And, one of the things that we'll ideally build in the future is the ability to actually have it more formally say,
default
decisions, otherwise do this.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, we still give you this functionality.
And I take it that the results are part of the answer record? Is that
the result is the answer record?
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get this question all the time. If I have to create a new table just for answers, like gold status, platinum status, diamond status, there's always questions about, is that going to impact my licensing because I'm creating a new table? And my answer to licensing is always the same. Check with your account team.
Yeah, absolutely. And, once we build the ability to have results that are not references, a lot of that concern around creating a new table for results should go away. Instead of having a new table that stores those records, you could have a choice result that says the choices are gold, silver, platinum.
And now it's time to put this into Flow.
Let's do it. All right. So we have this beautiful decision table, catalog assignment groups. let's go back to Flow Designer. So we have this painful flow, and we're going to create a new version of it that is using a decision table. So instead of going through all those if statements, we're going to use different logic. We are going to make a decision. The decision is going to be determine assignment group. We're going to use catalog. I can never remember the name of the decision table I created. Catalog assignment groups. Then a few things to look at here. By default, decision tables will give you this branch structure that appears after the action. So you can see it'll say, depending on the result, you can take different paths.
Mm-hmm.
This is really useful if you want to follow a different set of steps depending on the result. So if it's fulfillment group 1, then assign it to them, but also create task 2 and send it for a different approval process, versus if it's fulfillment group 2, you just want to fulfill. So if you want to follow different paths depending on the result, branches are awesome. In our case, all we want to do is assign this assignment group on the record. So we want to follow the same logical path regardless of what the result is, in which case we don't need to use these branches. All we want to do is use the result of the decision table. So what I was mentioning earlier, execution, we're only going to look for the first decision that evaluates to true. So looking at this decision table, we're going to look at and stop evaluating as soon as we find a result. The alternative is to run all decisions that match. And then instead of getting a single record back from the decision, you'll get a list of records back, and you can loop through those records. So here you can see those inputs that we were asking for based on the decision table. The item category we can find here. And then the requested item, same thing. There's our requested item record. So now we have given the decision table that handshake it's looking for. It's saying, give us the category, give us the requested item. And I also think of this decision table as, I don't know, apparently a human entity. But give us your inputs and we will give you back your result. So you can see here in this action, we're using the make a decision action. What's returned is this record, the group record. And that's the result that comes out of that decision table. So we've made our decision. We can now update the record. Update record. We'll update our requested item record. And we'll set that assignment group to the group record that is the result of our decision table. So by doing this, we just went from having this to having a flow that looks like this.
That hopefully you'll never have to touch again.
That's pretty awesome.
And if you want to change all that logic, you're doing it in this interface instead of trying to wade through all of these if-else statements and make changes there. So that is really the magic of decision tables. And I can't see any of the Q&A. So please, if there's other questions.
Yeah. Can you go back and open up action number 1?
Action number, yes, absolutely.
And Mahesh asked my next question. So why don't we do his first?
All right. This was his question. Can you use item variables in the conditions?
Yeah. What's the relationship between variables in the catalog item that you've requested and how you would pass them to a decision table? Is it just it's the input? If it's a reference input, it's a reference input.
That's an awesome question. Catalog variables are a way that you would want to use those non-reference inputs. So let's say you had a catalog variable that was a decimal. You know, you might want to, I can't spell. Catalog variable 1 is a decimal. All right, we can save this even though we're not using our input. And if we now, all right, save this, here we go. The demo gods have been so good to me so far.
Yep.
So now what you can see is we've added this input for catalog variable 1. You might use this decimal in your decision table. So you could say, I want to have a condition that's based on this decimal. you can add this condition column, add that in here. You can use it in your conditions, and you could directly map a catalog variable into this input field.
Easy.
Yeah.
Yep.
You just need
So
that
that's a
catalog.
it's a really
variable
good use case for non-reference inputs, because obviously if you can pass the requested item really easily through a reference input. But if you know that your requested item is going to come with 1 decimal, 1 string, and 1 reference variable, you might want to create specific inputs for those variables.
Mm-hmm. Okay, before you hit done on that, go back to the info icon next to the decision table field on this.
Yes.
Where does that take you?
It will take you, let's see.
Ah.
Ooh.
Oh, that's double coin for me.
Yep, here we are.
That's where I was hoping it would take you.
Yes, it will take you right into Decision Builder. So you're not having that disconnected, confusing, sometimes platform, sometimes Decision Builder experience.
And if you have to create a new one, will it take you here?
It will. Right now, what it will do is kind of do a bit of a hack where it takes you to this new platform page, but then you can launch Decision Builder from there once you give it a name.
Good enough for V1.
It is good enough for V1, and work in progress is, certainly within San Diego, but no promises of whether that's available before San Diego, is the ability to have this plus sign actually take you directly into Decision Builder. But either way, you're not going to get lost falling down the old platform view of decision tables rabbit hole.
And we can manage previous decision tables from the decision table builder because it's the same data table schema.
Exactly. Right? And you're going to, with the previous decision tables, because it's platform, because you're just using condition builder, you do have, there's kind of infinite flexibility when you're creating those decisions. You can easily not follow a decision table best practice, like having and between your condition columns. And so what we've built is a way to support any decisions that you've previously created. So if you created a decision that said item category is hardware and it's billable, or the category is software and the cost is less than 10,000, you can't build that anymore in this decision builder. It doesn't really make sense. But what you'll see is this will all merge horizontally, and you'll see the full condition expression, and then you can click into it, and that will open condition builder in a new module, so that you're not stuck, unable to edit things that you had created previously.
Nice.
So anything that's not supported is still viewable and still editable.
I see 3 columns in the conditions. Is there a best practice? Like, don't have more than 5, or your logic is probably too complex to think about, and B, it'll look like crap, or does it horizontally scroll, or how do you?
It does horizontally scroll, so we could just, you could just keep rolling. Okay, I can't do that again, but let's see how big we can make this. There we go. So you get a horizontal scroll. The best practice is definitely, like, you want these decision tables to be readable. You want to be able to make changes. If you find that your decision table has huge sections where there's blank cells, it probably means that you should be breaking that into 2 decision tables and then using them independently. So we don't put hard and fast limits on it. I believe there's system properties that limit how many decisions you can have and limit how many inputs you can have that are not set by default, but as an admin, you could set them. But yeah, the idea with this is to keep it readable, to keep it usable. But we expect that there's certainly a scenario where there's decision tables with 1,000 rows if you're trying to do something that's quite complicated. As you can see from this, we have 4 rows for hardware where billable is true and false. Like, these permutations can explode quite quickly, and we wanted to build a tool that would make that still be readable and manageable.
The chat is loving it.
That's awesome. Any other questions?
Well done. Well done.
Yeah, this is great. I
want to go back and fix mine now. and I'm glad you said that it's compatible with older decision tables, because I've got a few of them that I'm like, I know they're out there, but I just don't feel like updating them.
I mean, we're definitely hoping that by building this interface and making it way more understandable and usable, we'll be able to increase adoption, because we do like genuinely think that decision tables can make managing logic so much easier and more sustainable.
Yeah.
But we didn't want to leave the few folks who've been leveraging decision tables behind in the dust. So we've thought of you.
It's a critical factor to data-driven design, is to have
Absolutely.
decision tables. Any limitations on decision tables that you're aware of? I mean, I've done a lot of decisions with glide filter, or and doing check records, and a lot of scripted decision logic. What are your thoughts of A versus B on there? Obviously, scripted has some technical debt to it.
Yeah, I'm not sure specifically on that piece. Certainly, like, we've built this to be confined to defined field types and kind of a, point and click experience. But these decision tables right now, you can use them in Flow Designer with an easy action. You can call them via API from anywhere in the platform. In terms of building them, we've really focused on it being, without having that kind of scriptable option.
And when we're doing the conditions, can you dot walk?
You can.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Nice. We've had a few questions come in. I'll go ahead and throw one up here. So did we change anything on the platform side, I think is the question here, or is it really just the new interface?
Nothing has changed on the platform side.
All right.
Yeah, just think of it as a really nice makeover.
Really nice makeover.
We didn't change what's inside, just what's outside.
Yeah, which is kind of what we do with a lot of products. We build out the bones of it, and you can use it if you can, do all the related lists and all the records that work together, and then we make it easier to use.
Exactly. And we are going to change the bones, but only in ways that enable additional features. And we're doing that in a deliberate way where we're making sure that nothing, it supports anything that it was previously.
And then,
so a feature like dictionary override to use previous decision tables to act differently for a specific table, or do I need to make a different one per table?
So if you wanted to have like a decision, but then use it across maybe multiple things, but have it work differently based on, I think is what this is, based on maybe one of them.
I believe you'd have to create it again. I'm not sure that I totally grasp the use case, so feel free to shoot me that question after, and we can follow up on it. But it sounds like something where you'd have to create a different decision.
This would be that could be a good scenario for like a copy decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that copying both the individual rows, but also being able to copy the table and bring with that copy everything that's in it, are both things that'll be really valuable down the line.
Pretty easy to implement too.
Yeah.
I've done things like that before.
Nice. And then I want to call out, Lisa says they did a platform academy on decision tables yesterday that has some guidance and best practices, I think.
Yeah, that session also has some amazing ideas for use cases. So definitely check it out.
Nice. So we'll link to that from this video, and I think they're linking to this from that one. So yeah.
We're like social media hacking each other.
That's right.
At least it's still the same company.
All right. Put us back up on the screen here.
All right, great.
Is it compatible with domain separation?
It is.
Good question. All
Correct.
right.
Yes.
All right.
That's it. We're done.
That may be it.
Awesome stuff, Julia.
Amazing.
Any other questions that roll in? Any announcements we've got, Brad?
Oh, what a great question. Any announcements? We are going to be doing a live coding happy hour next Friday. This was Creator Toolbox, just in case you were confused by the wrong video. So we will be doing a live code next week. And yeah, I think that's about about all I have.
We've got a Tech Now coming up on November 30th with our own Brad Tilton doing
That's
some
me.
UI Builder stuff. So don't miss that. Registration should be open already. I'll go check and make sure that short link is working. But yeah, in fact, I'm pretty sure it is. Otherwise, I wouldn't have posted it to the community yet. So devlink.sn/technow. Look for episode 92 on UI Builder, and you'll find the registration link in that article. And we just had Mark Scott's Breakpoint yesterday. No, Wednesday. Sorry, it's Friday today. I lose track really easy. It's a short week for me. I was on PTO part of it. So that came out on Wednesday. We've got more coming up that I'm really looking forward to recording and producing and releasing for you. So lots of great stuff. We will be taking a bit of a hiatus on some of these productions in the month of December. Am I correct on that one, Brad?
That's right. I think this may be the last Creator Toolbox
For a while. We're gonna gather up some ideas, see if
leave it on a high note, you know.
That's right.
Yes. Oh yeah, heck yeah.
Absolutely.
Wanting more. Keep them hungry. Keep them hungry. So
you all have a good month and a half to go play around with Decision Builder.
That's right.
And check out previous episodes.
Absolutely.
So thank you everybody for that. And with that, I think we're on track for the closing theme. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everybody.